I've narrowed all the belt squats on the market down to my top 4. We'll cover the best options from the reigning king of versatility, Rogue's Rhino, to the best budget option, Fringe's Mammoth. But the one that may be most interesting is one you've probably never heard of. Of course, it's a best of list, so I had to exclude some popular alternatives, and we'll talk about why as we cover a few upcoming releases, as well as new accessories and ways to expand the functionality of my top choices. Before we get to all that though, we need to spend a little bit of time defending our love of belt squats to the guy in the comments who's about to say, "We used to be a proper country and just squatted." Well, I'll let you in on a dirty little secret. As much as I joke about hating squatting, it's not that I hate squatting. It's that our leg days are notoriously brutal and that I hate squatting. A belt squat places the load on your hips, allowing you to load the legs without putting stress on your upper body and spine, making them a great way to add more volume to your training so you can be even more miserable on leg day. The belt squat was invented as a tool to work around injuries, the obvious one being a back injury, as a barbell squat puts a lot of stress on your torso, but those with shoulder and other upper body limitations will find them useful as well. To me though, outside of safely adding volume to my training, the real appeal of a belt squat is in its versatility, and the most versatile belt squat is the Rhino. We recently reviewed Rogue's newest member of the Rhino family, the Rhino Trainer, which integrates a lat pull down, low row belt squat and functional trainer into a power rack. You can do just about anything with that rack setup. It gives you a ton of functionality, but everyone's wants and needs are different, which is why Rogue offers versions of the Rhino Trainer with or without the functional trainer. But that system is fairly complex and all-in-one racks can feel cluttered. So while I really like the Rhino Trainer because of how much you can do with it, Rogue's standalone version may be a better solution if you don't want everything integrated together. There's also a drop-in variation that attaches to your rack. Both of those won't have lat pull down or low row capabilities, nor can you opt for the functional trainer with them, but the belt squat more or less works the same way. The Rhino is a cable-based system, meaning the belt is connected to a pulley which attaches to a plate-loaded trolley. The Rhino's design and its 3x3 structure is what gives it its versatility. I can add 1-inch attachments onto the uprights, giving me more options on how I use it. The handles not only give me something to hold on to, but they also allow for multiple hand positions, and they, like everything else on the Rhino, are adjustable. You can face any direction, which opens up more possibilities. Well, the cake may interfere if you're facing forward, but it allows for greater freedom in positioning than other options. And when you combine all the little things the Rhino does, the 3x3 frame, the fact the cable doesn't need to travel on a perfectly vertical path like the Squatmax, or the cable travel not limiting your range of motion on exercises, it simply results in the Rhino being the most adaptable and versatile belt squat option. Like much of Rogue's American-made equipment, it is a bit overbuilt, but the build quality is fantastic. The Rhino is beyond solid. Even if you use your full intelligence to try to max it out, you won't be able to with those big weight horns. And because it uses a 1-to-1 weight ratio, you'll be moving the exact weight you load onto it, which unfortunately is humbling, but that's where lever belt squats come in. We'll talk about them in a minute, but they give you a mechanical advantage. So much like with a leg press, you just say you're squatting 4 plates. Something to look out for with belt squats is to make sure they come with a belt, because some cheaper options don't, which makes their price look much lower than it is when you factor in having to buy one. Also, the starting position is important, meaning how do you get into position? Belt squat belts allow you to clip in at different heights so that it works for your height. But ideally, you also want a system that allows you to get into position without the weight loaded, because as you can imagine, it can be difficult and dangerous to try to hoist that weight up and then set yourself up. That's an area where I think the Rhino does better than many other options. With the Rhino, you can pick the starting height, then you load the trolley, set your stance, do that tiny final lift off, and you're good to go. It's smooth, well designed, and an all-around great option. As much as I like the Rhino, it is the most expensive option in this video, with prices starting around $2,400 shipped for a drop-in version and then going up from there. It's not cheap. I would know. I bought mine, which is why if you enjoy our content and want us to be able to keep affording to make it, you'll use our affiliate links, because your support is what keeps this channel going, so thank you. It's not a big deal though. As a home gym owner, you understand, you love spending money. So if you want to spend even more, we actually prefer to use Spud Inc.'s pillow belt on our Rhino. In fairness, we prefer it over any included belt, and I've got no affiliation with Spud Inc. It's just our favorite one. While I do like the Rhino belt's beefy build, say that 3 times fast, it is a little rigid, so it may feel uncomfortable to some depending on your build. Now, I'm not one to promote my own content, but if I were, and if you were interested in watching a detailed review from a hilarious and handsome guy after you watch this video, I'd check out our reviews of all the options we're talking about today. All right. So you don't want to spend thousands of dollars to be the coolest guy in the neighborhood. Fair enough. Let's look at Fringe Sports Mammoth Belt Squat, my top overall budget-ish pick. I say ish because you can always go cheaper. Temu is always a click away from a lifelong spinal injury. This guy hates this thing so much, he literally couldn't stand further from it. The Mammoth is a compact modular lever style belt squat, which means unlike other cheaper options, it was designed so you can add onto it and so that it can fit onto a variety of racks. It's essentially a 2-inch by 3-inch upright with 5/8 inch holes drilled every 2 inches. That means the Mammoth fits on both 2-inch and 3-inch racks because you can spin it and then bolt it together once it's oriented to your rack. The extensions also have a series of holes in them, allowing you to adjust its length from 39 inches to 50 inches, and it can be bolted onto both 1-inch and 5/8 inch racks because Fringe has included pinholes for both sizes. So chances are it'll fit your rack. And technically I did test it on a 60mm or 2.3 inch wide rack and it worked, but you'd probably want to shim it to make it fit a bit tighter. That compatibility shows the thought Fringe put into the design, but it's the ability to add on to the Mammoth and Fringe's continued development of attachments for it that make it stick out versus other budget options. Since its launch, they've released a kickstand, which I'd say is almost a mandatory purchase as it allows you to get safely into position when it's loaded up. They recently dropped the dual mounted weight horns, which not only gives you more space to load plates, not that I think most people are maxing out the Mammoth's 14-inch weight horn, but top loading plates kind of sucks and I'd rather side mount them. We use spacers to make top loading plates easier to get on and off, but it's still not ideal. Although I do recognize the irony of me whining about having to lift plates to load them while I work out. Fringe building up an ecosystem around the Mammoth is cool, but because its design allows you to add on to it, seeing what people in the community like Matt Porter have done with it is probably the best testament to what the Mammoth is capable of. Do I use it for rows and other movements? No, not really, but it does have some additional versatility outside of belt squats, even if it's not going to come close to matching the Rhino's capabilities. At $300 shipped with a belt included and another $100 for the kickstand, it is a fraction of the price of a Rhino, but the Mammoth starts feeling pricey as you add on to it. My only qualms with lever belt squats like the Mammoth is they require you to load more weight because of leverage, although that does mean you'll look stronger when using it. Also, because of the arcing path they follow, they'll influence your natural path, pushing or pulling you, which can aggravate some people's joints. The longer the lever, the less dramatic that influence is, but it is something to note, and even the Rhino can guide your movement some if you're not positioned properly since you're attached to a cable. That's where Titan's Squatmax-MD comes in. As a free hanging style belt squat, meaning there's no cable or lever guiding you or influencing your movement, it most closely resembles an actual squat movement. Although there's a rod that stops the weight from swinging, it still allows for some freedom in your movement, making it feel more natural. You know, as natural as strapping hundreds of pounds to your body will ever be. If you're looking to get a belt squat primarily for squatting, which sounds really dumb when you say it out loud, the Squatmax would be my top choice. While you can't do quite as much with it as you can the Rhino, it's still a versatile piece of equipment with the ability to do pulls and other exercises, since you can orient yourself however you want on the platform. Titan has even released a set of accessories for the Squatmax, allowing for even more possibilities, although those attachments will only work on the standalone version of the Squatmax. They're not compatible with the rack-mounted variation. That's the less expensive of the two, and it's functionally similar in that they both allow you to set up without the weight fully loaded on you. Most of the components are the same, so you've got the same handles that are used to move the safeties and release the weight. Those handles can also be used to help with balance if needed, and they both come with the same comfortable adjustable belt that Brian Hennessy, the creator of the Squatmax, has been selling for years, as well as the detachable foot plate you can use if you want a more narrow stance. Winnie and I haven't had issues with our stance width on the Squatmax, but it's still a nice inclusion even if it limits you to using 25-pound or even worse, 35-pound plates. Without the ability to use the seat and other attachments on the rack attached version though, I'd stick to the standalone version if you've got the space and money. With either version, you have to load plates vertically, but Dean from Black Widow makes a horizontal loading plate for it if that really bothers you. Actually, since the weight hangs freely, there's a little more balance and freedom in the movement, which results in a true 1-to-1 weight ratio, making the Squatmax feel heavier than other options, so you won't have to load it as heavy. In our original review, we mentioned some range of motion issues for those under 5 foot 6 inches or so, but luckily Titan quietly updated a few things. The most important of which is the bottom crossmember now allows you to get a little deeper. It's not a game-changing tweak, but who's complaining about an extra inch or so? More important than that is it's a good example of Titan Fitness listening to feedback and improving things, which hasn't always been their strongest suit. The Squatmax, though, is one of their better made products. The build quality is great and the design is refined. Now, most people in the market for a belt squat are going to end up with one of the three options we've already talked about. But the most interesting belt squat is the one Dialed Motion makes for their Ibex and Sidewinder cable systems. If you're not familiar with the Ibex and Sidewinder, that means you probably forgot to press the subscribe button and should do that right now because we already did a review on them. They're really cool add-ons that can fit on basically any 3x3 rack, be it a 6-post, 4-post, or even a single post, to give you not only functional trainer capabilities, but lat pulls as well. The only issue with Dialed Motion is some jerk's video got a lot of views, and since he really liked them, they keep selling out, which is great for them, but not great if you're trying to buy one. With them partnering with PRX, which we'll be reviewing that collab, yet another reason for you to subscribe, and Dialed Motion growing as a small business, hopefully they'll eventually be able to keep up with demand. But this video is about belt squats, and Dialed Motion's belt squat add-on works with both the Sidewinder and Ibex, allowing you to add a belt squat to other companies' rack ecosystems. The innovative part about it, though, is Dialed Motion's cable retractor. With a simple flick of a switch, you can engage or disengage the weight, allowing you to get into position without any load or stress on you. The two systems do work a little differently, though. With the Sidewinder, once it's switched on, as you drop down, it'll ratchet the cable in, and then once you start moving upward, the weight engages. If you're used to other systems where the load engages at the top, it can take a little getting used to because on that first rep, there's no load until you start moving upward, and you're probably not used to bracing that way. With the Ibex, you can start with the tension at the top or the bottom of the movement. To start at the top, just put a pin under the carriage, and when you're ready, you flick the switch and remove the pin. The best part about all these belt squats is there's no danger in failing a rep. If you run out of steam, you just sit down and unclip your belt. The ratcheting mechanism is how dialed motion is able to make the ibex and sidewinder work regardless of how your rack is set up. The cable length is quickly adjustable, the cable routing is simple, and if you've already bought into their ecosystem, spending another $100 to add the belt squat in is a fairly cheap addition. That being said, it doesn't come with a belt, so you would need to buy your own. As a belt squat, it works well and is a cool addition to an already versatile system, but the most exciting part about it is the possibilities. They sell all the parts separately and even have a few adapters that allow the retractors to integrate into a weight stack or whatever else you can dream up. And that's the exciting part. The community has come up with some really cool ideas on how to use these, which got me to thinking. What if Dialed Motion and Rogue collaborated and came up with a way to make a selectorized Rhino? That would be friggin' wild. It'll probably never happen because they need to redesign quite a bit about it, and it's not nearly as simple as a solution as it sounds, but there are other options coming to the market, which means I can milk this video for years to come. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to talk about them all, but United Fit just teased a drop-in version they're working on that seems to have some serious capabilities. You may remember them from when we covered their cambered bar, and Rep has been working on one as well. Not their current option, that one's lacking, one that in their words will be better than Rogue's Rhino. That's a tall order, and everything a company says is an advertisement, so that's what we should expect them to say. But things are always evolving, and we'll be excitedly watching and reviewing what comes out. Of course, there are other units out there. Pit Sharks are fairly common in commercial gyms, although they're pricey and large. Bell's Belt Squat is popular, although I'm still patiently waiting version 3.0 over here. And with a footprint and prices like that, you're starting to creep into Squatmax territory, which I think I'd rather have. What do I know though? Let me know what you think. Thanks to our Patreons for keeping this channel alive, and thanks for watching.